Hi guys, in today's video I am doing a lot of things. 40th week pregnancy update, my unmedicated hospital birth story, as well as I'm introducing you to this little nugget and letting you know what her name is and everything. Hi guys, I know it sounds like a lot of things that have to fit into one video, but I thought that some of the parts are going to be so short, like introduction to this baby girl, that it's not going to take that much time and it's okay to just put it all in one video. I hope it ends up being not too long and not very overwhelming, but interesting at the same time. So I will just go in the order as I mentioned in my 40th week pregnancy update. I delivered her almost on the due date. She was born the day after my due date, so I probably could have done my 40th week update, but there was not much going on with me except for a lot of contractions. I felt like I was going into labor every day. I had the same thing happening to my bowel movements, like I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom so much, and that kind of made me think that I'm going into labor because all of the muscles and everything down there relaxes for the baby to go through. So I would go to the bathroom 2 to 3 times a day, which obviously is not normal for an adult. I don't think it is. Not at least for me, not for me. I go to the bathroom once a day probably, and that was a sign that something was different for me. The day before I went into labor, I started having my mucus plug coming out, and I did have a little bit of the bloody show, I think. Not much at all. I just saw pieces of mucus, like bigger chunks of mucus coming out of me. Not overwhelming, not like the whole mucus plug at the same time, but it was, I knew that the mucus plug was coming out slowly. And then I did have a little bit of the pinkish discharge. Again, not much at all. That's, I'm like, am I going into labor? I think I am. I mean, it was my due date tomorrow, so I knew that it's coming close, but those were the signs that I was going into labor and that my 40th week of pregnancy was my last one. Now on to my birth story. The Sunday, my due date, March the 15th, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning with very regular contractions, which was a very normal thing for me to experience because I felt like I had that happening to me for multiple weeks already. That I thought that I was going into labor. But then I woke up at 5 o'clock, went downstairs, ate my breakfast. I'm like, okay, let's pack some bags just in case, because you never know. It is a due date, so I'm like, things should be moving around, especially that my mucus plug was coming out. I was suspecting that things should start moving along, but then nothing was changing for a while, and I'm like, oh, I think I should take a nap. I took a nap around 9 o'clock, where I woke up around 9. And then for the rest of the Sunday, I had a super regular contractions every 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and then it just started being every 2 minutes. But they were very weak, very tolerable. I could laugh through them. I was in a very good, in a decent mood, and I felt really good. Like it was definitely not the active labor, and did not feel like I was getting anywhere with them. I called my doctor, and I'm like, well, I have these contractions 2 minutes apart that last for 30 seconds, but they're extremely tolerable. And she told me, whatever you feel like, you can either come in and we'll check you, or you can stay home and see how everything is going on. I spent home another 2 or 3 hours, and then I'm like, well, I was just afraid. If you have been following my updates, you know that I was very scared of having a very short labor, because my mom, her third child, her labor was 1 hour, and I was really scared about that, and my doctor knew about that. So she's like, okay, whatever you feel like, you can either come in, we can check you and then see what's going on, or send you home or whatever. She's like, do whatever you feel you're comfortable with. So we hung out at home for a few more hours, and then around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we called our pastor's wife, because she was the one who was supposed to babysit the boys. And she came over and we went to the hospital. So we made it to the hospital at 4 o'clock in the 4 p.m. I felt a little ridiculous being admitted to the hospital just because of how weak everything was. And the doctor did say it does sound like an early stage of labor, but I still felt so weird being admitted while being so early into labor. They admitted me, they checked me. I think I was around 3.5 centimeters dilated, and they were like, well, we potentially could discharge you to go home and spend a little bit more time home, or we would potentially keep you. And they had the monitor on the baby, just like that non-stress test that I was having every week for the last 3 weeks. And the doctor told me that the baby was not moving as much as they would like. So basically, if it would be a non-stress test, she would fail and they would not let me out of the hospital, which was fine with me because I don't think I would want to go back home, because by the time they checked me, by the time we hung out at the hospital, it was like around an hour afterwards. So it was 5 o'clock in the evening. I felt my contractions getting stronger and stronger, which was very interesting, as if my mind just allowed my body to start laboring because I knew I was at the hospital. But it was interesting that at 5 o'clock, I knew that I'm going into labor because they got pretty painful and it was very difficult to tolerate. But then my hope with a quick labor, in like 1 hour labor, turned into 9 hours of labor, and that was very exhausting and very not disappointing, because I follow this girl on YouTube and Instagram as well, DNC Pinkston. I'm going to link her channel in the description of this video. She talks so much about the labor, and I'm so thankful for her videos because they prepared me so much for another labor, even though I did 2 of my other labors with my boys naturally without pain medication. I remembered it being a very challenging experience, but you forget how difficult it is. And then once you're again at the point of trying to do the labor naturally at the hospital, I was so thankful for her videos and for the tips and tricks that she just mentioned throughout the video that helped me so much. And even then, I struggled a lot through the labor, and it was difficult. Starting laboring at 5 o'clock, they checked me a few times and the dilation did not progress too much, so they kind of just left me alone to labor with my husband. And the difficult part about hospital birth is that they have the monitors on the baby and they need to be able to hear the baby's heartbeat at all times, and you can be only in the position where the monitor is where it's supposed to be. So it was a little hard that I could not stand or sit or do any or use the birthing ball or anything like this. Only when I needed to use the restroom I could get out of the bed. My husband would disconnect the monitors and I would use the restroom. But again, you need to choose what you are going for. If it's a birthing center, I have never been to birthing center. I don't know how much the monitoring of the baby is happening there. But I was thankful that they could check on the baby, know that she was fine all throughout the labor. So I guess that's the downside that you're taking, that I could have been only in one position sitting in the bed. And it was, I don't know if it would be better if I could move around more, just because of how much in pain you are. And then there was a point of time, maybe I'm not exactly sure, maybe around 10 o'clock in the evening or 11, that my contractions picked up. And it was weird because I think the position that I could move myself into would make the baby touch certain spots within my body that I felt like I really needed to push. I had that sensation that I wanted to push, and when they checked me, they said I was only 5 centimeters dilated, and that was very discouraging. That was really hard to hear and accept, that I'm like not even in the transition part of the labor, but I felt like I almost wanted to push. That was really hard and discouraging. But whatever, I just went back to my normal breathing, and I don't know if that helps you. I watched a few other YouTube videos, and the doula who was doing those videos, she mentioned that if you breathe and imagine as if your breathing goes in the J shape, so down and out as if the baby is coming out, that actually helped me visualizing a little bit my breathing pattern, and I just concentrated on my breathing a lot. and try to just imagine that it's just one contraction at a time. There is no promises, there is nothing that I need to be struggling with. Just go through one contraction, suffer through the pain, which I know I should not be saying suffer, because it's not suffering. DNC mentions it. It's just the transformational pain. It's not the pain that brings death and the pain that we should be scared of, but it's the transforming pain that opens up your body. And that was very helpful, but still it was very painful, and I was trying to go through each contraction one at a time. Another difficult thing that was there that I remember with my first birth was the nurse who offered me a pain medication, and it was so difficult to refuse. I strongly considered, and I was really leaning towards getting pain medication because of how difficult it started getting. I think I was getting to the transition stage of the birth where DNC, and I mean everyone tells you that you get to the point where you become desperate, and it's so hard to go through, and that's how you know that this is the transition stage. And on one hand, it was hopeful that, okay, I'm getting somewhere. This is the desperation that I was waiting for, that very soon I will be able to push the baby out. But on the other hand, when she offered the pain medication, and I knew that they just recently checked me and I was at 5, I knew that there is still so much more to go. But on the other hand, you still need to remember that anything, the baby's movement and anything, can change the dilation so much. And that's one thing that held me back, was I'm like, well, maybe I am close to being done with the pain and I don't need to be taking pain medication. So that was one thing that helped me not getting the pain medication. My battery died, so I had to put the baby on the bed, and she seems so contented. I'm just going to keep her there, and I will just keep telling you my stories. But yes, the second thing that I'm so thankful that happened was that the pain within my contraction has changed. It just became different, and I'm like, okay, I think I can tolerate it a little bit more. And I just decided to not take the medication, even though, again, they did offer me 2 different things. One that affects me, not the epidural. So basically there's epidural that has to go in your spine, which I was a little scared of. There are multiple reasons why I did not choose to have epidural with my other labors, but one of the main reasons is that I have scoliosis, and I'm really scared of people messing with my spine and making it even worse than it already is. I mean, it's not horrible, but I don't know how my spine will behave as I age. So that's one of the reasons why I did not want to get epidural. And I should have looked up other reasons for not getting epidural, because it was really tempting for me. But then realizing that after the fact that I would not be able to walk for a little bit, and the chances of getting C-section, obviously there's way more risks that come when you get epidural. But the thought of me messing with my spine, I did not want to do it. And then the other option was obviously the medication that affects me and brings me temporary relief for whatever number of hours, as well as that medication affects the baby, which I am so thankful. I am just convinced that it was God who changed the type of the pain that I was experiencing, and that I was able to go through labor without it. Because if I would have gotten that kind of medication, it would make the post-birth experience and everything so much more stressful for us. And you will hear in a moment why. So basically, the other medication would just put me in the dozing off situation, as if I'm drugged up, which I'm like, should I drug myself up or no? And I'm like, what if I need to push in 30 minutes or 15 minutes? What if something does change within my body so fast and I will be drugged up? I won't be in my right mind to push. And the combination of those thoughts, in addition to my pain changing a little bit, I was like, okay, I think I'm not going to get medication, even though it was extremely hard to make that decision because of how strong and intense the pain was. I kept laboring and it was really difficult. There were multiple times where I asked the doctor to come in and check me, and the downside of the hospital birth is that the doctor who admitted me, the doctor who is coming from my practice, and I know who she was, I know her personality, she was done with her shift and she left. And the doctor who delivered the baby was the hospital doctor, who I have never met before. It was a man, which always, I don't like men gynecologists, which is obviously a very, I don't know, probably not the right statement to make, but I would prefer a woman doctor to deliver the baby, and for me to be checked by the woman doctor. But whatever, it was a man doctor who I have never met before, whose personality was not, his bedside manners were not what I could deal with easily. It was very hard being in so much pain and so out of control, and he would not respond to my requests or questions. First of all, when I asked for the doctor to come and check me and see how much I was dilated, because I felt like I really needed to push, he was not available. He was delivering another baby, and that was so discouraging to me. I'm like, what if I need to deliver right now my baby? And I think with hospital births, they expect majority of women to get the pain medication and to not have all of the sensations that I was feeling. And I guess with pushing, I guess you just wait. I don't know. You guys, if you had epidural, let me know. Does it feel, is it an urgent thing to do for you to push, or is it not? Can you wait? Can you hold back? Because multiple times throughout the labor, I felt like I really, really needed to push. And my husband after the birth was like, it was interesting how much you wanted to push. And obviously there are multiple reasons. First of all, it's the feeling that your body has to do something different. Plus, the sooner I push, the sooner the labor ends, and there's the hope of the relief. But yes, when I called the doctor for the first time, well, can you check me? He was not available. He was delivering another baby, and I'm like, well, that is interesting. What if I am about to deliver the baby? So that was one thing. And when you're in pain, it was difficult to accept. And then when he was in the room, he would not respond to my questions. He seemed like he was thinking and evaluating, but he would not say it with his words, which was difficult to accept and to understand. When you see a patient in so much discomfort and pain, why wouldn't you say something? But again, I think they are so used to women getting pain medication that maybe they don't know how to handle people who want to have a natural birth. I'm not exactly sure of how to navigate that part and to make sense of the doctor. I don't want to say that he was bad. No, he was probably very good, but his manners were a little bit unusual for me to handle. I would definitely love to have the doctor who I have worked with before, but that was not an option at the hospital. But yes, finally, at around 1 o'clock or whatever time it was, I feel like I pushed for probably 15 minutes, because it probably took me 5 contractions or so to push her out. So I would suspect that it was around 1:15 or 1:20 or something like this, that I was like, please let me push, please check me. And he was like, well, it seemed like your cervix was fully dilated, but the baby was at the, he said that the baby is at the position 0, so basically she did not descend anywhere. But he's like, okay, if you want to push. And I'm like, okay, then what do I do? And then no one would give me instructions for like a moment or so, which was so weird. And I don't know, maybe it's my laboring mind felt like it took them forever to give me instructions with what to do, because you have to pull up your legs, you have to like tilt your chin. I remember that you have to do something special with your breathing as well, but no one would tell me what to do. So after a few moments, they were like, okay, this is what you do, this is how you do it. And then I started pushing, and I think it took me around 5 contractions, as I said, to push her out, which again, I forgot how strongly you need to push and how intense that part of labor is. I thought it's just like, well, just like going to the bathroom, the sensation of like doing number 2, which it is, but it's like, I think it's like times 30 or 40, like the force that you have to use to use those muscles. It was extremely intense, because the moment I started pushing, I'm like, okay, I don't feel like anything is happening. I need to apply way more force. Once I started feeling like there is some kind of movement, I was like, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. I got it, I can do it. But then I'm pretty sure when the baby's head came out, no one said anything. So they just kept telling me, push, push, push. You can a little bit more. If you want to push, you can push more. But I didn't know at what point of pushing I felt the burning sensation. I felt more things happening, but I didn't know if the head was out or no. And again, that's the communication part between you and your doctor that is so crucial and so important. It was very difficult to have that doctor because no one said anything. And I'm like, is the baby out? Is she not? Is her head out? What's going on? But then finally I pushed a little bit more, and then the whole baby came out, and it was 1:40 a.m. on Monday morning, March 16th. And she was born. And it's always funny for me because with both of my labors, everyone's like, all moms who say that they deliver, everyone says that they cried. I never cry when I deliver. It's just a sigh of relief that everything is fine. Oh, that's right, the baby. Let me tell you about the baby, about the pain medication. But yes, I just have a sigh of relief that she cried right away. Everything was fine. My husband cried. I did not cry. Now I'm like more relaxed. Now I know that everything is fine, and I think my hormones obviously after the delivery is a little off possibly. But yes, now I'm like, oh, everything is so good. But that's right, you guys, when I was having contractions when I was 7 centimeters dilated or so, I felt like I needed to push. So I was just allowing my body to relax, and I felt like some water was coming out, like as if my water broke, which I didn't have a huge gush of water, but I did feel something coming out of me. So I did ask the nurse, did you guys break my water? Do you need to break my water or no? And she's like, I don't think her water is broken, and no, we don't need to break your water. Which, from what I understand, breaking the water does speed up the labor. However, after reading a little bit after the labor, maybe it does not. So I do not know what is better or what is not, but they did not break my water manually beforehand. When I mentioned it, she's like, okay, let me check. She got the swab stick, and there's like the yellow stuff on it. And when you touch the amniotic fluid, it should turn blue. And it did turn blue. So my water sac did break somewhere, but there was not much water that came out. So once she told the doctor that my water broke, he was a little confused about it because he checked. He said that there's not much water around me. And she's like, well, the swab turned blue, so her water did break. Well, once they broke my water, like released a bunch more, they saw that the baby had pooped inside of me, and it was, I don't know what color it was, yellow, green, brown, I have no idea. They didn't say, but they did say that the baby pooped. And what it entailed is that if the baby would not cry right away when she came out of me, that would mean that the hospital pediatrician would have to check on her way more. And I don't know what else. Would she have to go to the NICU? Would they have to do anything additional to her to make sure that she was fine? And after the birth, at the moment I didn't realize that, but after the birth I just thought, what if I would have gotten that other kind of pain medication that would make her drowsy and that would have affected her, that she would not cry right away? That would make me and my husband so nervous for her, because we would think that it might have been the meconium that has affected her. Would she need to get antibiotics into her? Would she need to get whatever else she would have to have done to her if she wouldn't cry right away, which potentially could have been just me getting the pain medication. Thank God when she came out, she was crying, she was red. They gave her 9.9 agar score, I think that's what it's called, and I think 10 is the highest. So she was totally fine, everything was good. I had 2 little tears with which the doctor stitched me up right there. It took a little bit of time for the placenta to come out, which I was a little impatient, but eventually everything came out. Then we spent an hour in that delivery room because they said that's what they believe right now, skin to skin contact with the baby is super important for the first hour after the birth. The doctor obviously left and never saw me afterwards, which was another very interesting thing. But yes, we spent an hour in that room just cuddling, nursing the baby, and then after an hour the nurse took her to get the footprints, weigh her to measure her, and she was 8 pounds 7 ounces, which I thought she was smaller because I mean you don't remember how little they are when they're born, and apparently she's big. She is around 20 inches and she's just a little perfect nugget. And I will grab a camera in a moment. I will show her to you, but for now I will just finish my little hospital story that we were released 30 hours after the labor, a little bit sooner than normally, 48 hours after labor, because of the coronavirus going on. It was just like so inconvenient that only in our situation only my husband could come in and basically visit me, and the boys were not allowed into the hospital. And that was a lot of, from the logistical standpoint, my husband's parents came over to babysit and switched the pastor's wife, which was super convenient, but no one could come and visit because of the virus going around. So it was way easier for us to try to get out of the hospital, a little bit easier for that reason, and for the virus reasons. I mean, it's a hospital, everyone all sick and everyone else is going to the hospital, so I didn't want to hang out there more than I needed to. And thankfully we were able to do everything that we had to do for the pediatrician's appointment for her, so that the pediatrician could release her. And then my OBGYN apparently said that I was okay being released, which I'm thankful that they released me. But no doctor came in to check on me. The nurses were wonderful. They were checking on me, make sure my uterus was contracting, I was not bleeding too much, and my vital signs were fine. So the nurses were wonderful. But the doctor didn't come to see me. Whoever or whatever doctor released me out of the hospital just looked at the papers and said, yes, she's fine to go, which interesting to me. I'm like, if this is your patient, don't you want to make sure that she's okay to be released? But I mean, whatever, I'm fine. It's a week after the birth, I'm all good. The first few days were very rough. I felt very weak and yeah, just tired and in pain and achy. But now, a week later, I feel almost normal. I feel very good. I'm so thankful. Everything is so good. And yes, you guys, it's all done. I'm so thankful for the labor to be over. And that is all, you guys, for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was interesting for you to hear my story. I am not sure if I missed out on any of the details. If you're curious about anything else, leave me a comment below or message me on social media with your questions. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye.
And here you go, baby Mia Rose. Welcome to this world, baby girl.